Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweetie are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey,
Guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two sweetie sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweetie with a Y.
And I'm Sweetie with an IE.
And hey, oops, we took a surprise vacation. Just kidding. We didn't get around to posting, you know. We have busy lives in quarantine, and there's not much else we can do about it, guys.
Here's the facts. We moved again. I have to just say to the listeners out there, it has seemed like I have moved a lot. And you would be correct. Because since we have started this podcast, I have moved 3 times. Maybe 4.
I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, because we podcasted at Lindsay's house when you lived there.
You're right. Yep. Okay. So I have since lived. This is now my old apartment, Lindsay's, that one. This is my 5th apartment since we started podcasting. Close to 4 years ago. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I've moved a lot, but 2 reasons why. A, I was broke and I had to move for a better financial situation. B, I don't like living with people, so then I had to move again. C, I met Sweetie, Jimmy, and then I moved again. So those are like 3 very important factors which would lead you to move several times. I am not a bad roommate, nor do I have, issues with like landlords or anything. I just want to say my references are impeccable.
Didn't get evicted.
I didn't have to get evicted. I've just had some big life changes, and another one has just happened. Sweetie, Jimmy, and I just moved to a new town. We live in the burbs now, guys. The Burbs, which we have to do that movie, BTW.
The Burbs.
The Burbs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, that's one that we've been meaning to for a while. So we're in the Burbs now. And so new apartment, new acoustics. Hope it's great. I have a big kitchen now. It's like a legit kitchen, not like a shitty little galley kitchen, which I've had for a while. So big ups. Let me tell you, we did a whole suburban Sunday where we went to Home Depot, went to the gardening center. I mean, shit is getting real here.
Pretty nice little Sunday.
I know. It really was. Except fucking Home Depot shipped the wrong... I got a raised garden bed for herbs. They sent me garden stakes. I don't even know what those are. Actually tie into the movie for later. Stakes, wooden stakes. But the completely wrong thing. And I called them and I was like, hey, Home Depot, you sent me the wrong shit. And they're like, that's too bad. So you have to return it and then you'll get a refund and then you have to reorder it again. Is that not the craziest policy for if they send you the wrong stuff you've ever heard in your entire life? Why do I have to do everything if they messed up?
I don't know. It's bad. It's bad, man.
Don't order from Home Depot, guys. I'm just saying. Also, Trump supporter, so just don't anyway.
Yeah, why were you doing that in the first place?
Because they were the only place that could ship me my raised bed within like a week. Everyone else was going to be a month, and I want to get those herbs in the ground. So anyway, so we're also remote casting today, guys, because some crazy thunderstorms out in these parts. So Sweetie didn't feel confident driving Moose Jr. over here, so we're back in the remote.
Well, maybe because last week I journeyed to Sweetie's new apartment and I almost died on the highway on the way there because there's also a torrential rainstorm where I almost died. Yeah. And so obviously didn't want to drive again, didn't want to get spooked. So
I feel like, well, it was pretty bad raining like when you maybe would have left, but it was really the lightning that was like nothing I'd ever seen. We saw actual like bolts, lightning strikes, and the thunder was the loudest thunder I maybe have ever heard. They sounded like bombs. It was nuts. So
it ain't over yet.
So I was going to give you a hard time about being like a chicken and not driving, but you know what? I'm not because it was scary.
Good. God. You know, I'm just looking out for myself.
I know. I'm proud of you.
You don't know what it was like in that car.
I know.
It was
No,
scary.
I know.
I thought it was the end.
I know. So who needs to do
is
that?
the end.
So we got the remote option. Thank you, COVID-19. So we're rocking it again. Hope it's okay for everybody. Sweetie's choice tonight. Sweetie, what'd you pick?
Well, I'll tell you. Sad news in the film world, the movie world. What do they? I don't know what they call it. Hollywood, the place with the movies. Joel Schumacher, famous director, has passed away. He was old and had cancer.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, was it a COVID thing or no?
duty.
It was cancer.
No,
Okay.
we talked about this.
Oh, and he was old. I don't know.
and
why.
he had cancer,
Okay, how old was he?
like 80 something.
Okay, so refresh the listeners at home. What are some famous films directed by Joel
Well,
Schumacher?
Two of the biggest, I think, are Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Okay.
So responsible for those bad boys. Also, The Client
Okay.
was one. Some other stuff I can't remember right now, but
I feel like
a lot of movies.
Intense movies, maybe. Are his movies like intense? That's what I'm getting that sort of.
I don't know
thing.
if we can make a blanket statement, but it could be possible.
Okay.
I think he's one of those directors. I have no idea what he looks like.
Yeah.
And I may have mixed up his name with one of those like TV commercial lawyers, like Jim Sokoloff or like Joel Schumacher. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just that's what it sounds like. But wanted to pay tribute to him, and so thought it was time to pick one of the movies I've wanted to do for a while, but we just haven't gotten around to it. I was gonna try to save it for Halloween because it's pretty spooky, and that movie is
The Lost Boys.
Stop it, creeper. The Lost Boys, 1987.
7. So
1987.
this is Sweetie's second vamp film in a row. I think she's obsessed.
I was like, I feel like we just talked about vampires. Like
this is gonna be so similar.
Actually, we did. No, let's talk about similar themes.
Oh no, I mean I could talk about vampire films all day. What is your past? Okay, so for the record, I have never seen this film, so newbie virgin here on the Lost Boys train. But you have seen this before.
I've seen it when I was big into horror movies and wrote a horror movie blog. So I watched. I don't know, when was that? 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, so I didn't see it when I was little either, but I have a feeling if I did and wasn't terrified as fuck, I would have really enjoyed it. It would have been a movie that probably we would have had in our Sweetie canon.
Definitely. And I want to say I had never seen this movie before, but I had definitely heard of it for a long, long time, and was always thought, I think one of those things where either people talked about it or I thought it would be too scary for me. So even if I would have come across it, I don't think I ever would have watched it because I was like, ooh, yeah, Lost Boys, heard about that one, 80s horror movie, can't do it. Now I'm a totally different person. As you know, I've talked about many times on this podcast. Really, nothing scares me at all in terms of movies. So I wish I could, I wish I had seen this and had not been scared in the 80s or even been a teenager in the 80s, because I feel like this is a perfect teenager movie you would have gone with your friends with and been yeah, this is so cool. And I would have loved to have that experience because it just felt very much like that kind of movie. And it was really fun. I mean, I had a blast tonight watching this. It was really good.
Yeah, super dope. Super 80s. Just good stuff.
Yeah, the most 80s vampire movie I've ever seen. I mean, Once Bitten definitely was too in its own way, but this was a more that's more comedy, kind of campy. This is a little bit more serious vampire one, but definitely so 80s, which I loved about it. So
80s glam vamps.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
The best.
So awesome.
Love it.
Okay, so who is in this film?
So we got double Corey.
The
Corey
Coreys.
Feldman.
So this
Corey
was their first
Haim.
film, actually, that started the Coreys.
What?
Yeah, this is the first one they were in together. Sorry, the one they were in together.
Huh.
Yeah.
I don't believe
I know.
it.
I didn't either. I was like, oh, this must have been like in the middle. No, first one.
Right.
They weren't even friends yet.
Well, oh my God. Yeah, so that's them. Kiefer Sutherland, who is always once a creep, always a creep, as we like to say.
oh, yeah. And
They were like, okay, we need a raper vampire. A vampire who's a rapist. Who do we got?
right. And
Kiefer.
I was like, I didn't really think you could make Kiefer Sutherland any more scary. And then you pop on vampire prosthetics and it's like, whoa, like it got real bad.
Yeah.
I mean, the
Too
guy
much.
is terrifying. And let's repeat, right, as you said, and we've said in other films that we've covered Kiefer in, always a rapist, always. And then he had that like crazy turn, basically trying to restart his career with 24, and then he was in that Designated Survivor one. So I feel like he's really come around. He's like off the rapist wagon for sure, and good for him. But like, oh God, the 80s and 90s,
yeah.
like, whoa. He's so scary. I'm sorry.
So scary.
He's so scary.
We also got Diane Weiss.
Weiss.
Sweet little Weisty.
Such a Weister.
She's a button.
She's a button.
Love her little haircut.
I'm just gonna say, I was like, I always feel like my like vision of Diane Weiss is like in like a bowl cut, like a suburban mom, like little like triangle bowl, like bowl cut kind of a thing. And so having
Scissorhands.
yeah, like that, or like even there's another movie that she's in. Anyway, sweet lady, but yeah, this like close crop little Mia Farrow pixie, really working for her. Really like it.
Yeah.
Jason Patrick, who I only know really as from Speed 2, worst sequel ever, right? But he was no, he's the Keanu Reeves character.
I didn't know there was a Keanu Reeves character. Never seen it. Sorry.
Yeah, because Sandra Bullock is like dating him, and they're supposed to go on this cruise, and then remember the cruise ship is the runaway cruise ship.
I know the basic plot of Speed 2 cruise control. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, we got to do that one. Reminder. Oh, add that to the sequels. I have a whole list of bad sequels to do. Speed 2. Okay. Yeah, so I don't really know him from that, but he is in Sleepers, so big role for him in Sleepers. That movie Rush, which I feel like was like pretty big, and then this other one that they mentioned, which I'd never seen, but apparently was kind of his bigger movie before this. But anyway, Jason Patrick, cute guy, unfortunate hair in this movie. Let's be honest, it's one of those things when you're like, man, if only that guy got a haircut,
I don't know.
he'd be cute.
I could get into it. It wasn't like a mob. It wasn't like a, like it was just like a little bit curly, and so it was a little bit bigger. I don't know.
No, but it was just like teenager who refuses to cut his hair.
Oh, yeah. I mean, whatever. He rides a bike. I like it. It's hot. Leave Michael alone.
Michael.
And then Sweetie's favorite guy from Overboard and the narrator of that book.
Yep. Richie Rich's
Unbroken.
dad.
Who's a what?
Richie
Who's
Rich's dad.
Richie's dad. What's his name?
Edward Herman.
Okay.
R.I.P. Miss him. I'm just going to say it again. If you want to ever read the book Unbroken, don't. Do the audiobook and listen to this guy read it, because he's amazing. So good. I also think he voices, and not anymore, like I said, R.I.P. died a couple years ago, but he voices, if you ever watch any of the Ken Burns documentaries, so I just watched the Roosevelt one, so he did some voices in that. So he does he has a great voice, so he does like good voiceover work. But sad turn as the villain, though. Spoiler alert. I was very, very sad.
Spoiler. Yep. I mean, I guess it's sad. He's kind of a creeper.
He was only a villain for like a hot sec, though. So I was glad.
I mean, he was. Well, we'll talk about it. But yeah, those are all the peeps.
I think you're missing Bill from Bill and Ted.
Oh yeah, Alex Winter from Bill and Ted's.
Is he Bill or is he Ted? He's Bill.
I don't know. Oh, I would have said Ted.
I had to ask Jimmy. I was like, "Is that Bill or Ted?" It's Bill.
Oh, they're both. I mean, yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah. Good
and
cast.
and
What? Oh,
who else?
Who else? The woman
Thank you.
from Twister. The weird girlfriend, wife, fiance. I forget.
Fiance, and so this was so Twister was 10 years later, and it's like amazing that she was like sex pot, like vampire, like girl,
So
and then
sad.
10 years later, like psychiatrist, like bad haircut, like gets left for Helen Hunt.
God,
I mean,
that's
that's
really
what
depressing.
10 years will do to you in the film industry.
Depressing.
It is
10 years
depressing.
ago when I saw Lost Boys.
I
I'm
know.
her.
I
She's
know.
me.
I know. It is scary.
Ugh.
But she's cool.
Awful.
I like her. She has a very like Jennifer Connelly like vibe to her in this, I feel like. Very like Labyrinth, Jennifer Connelly,
Yep.
you know, like big eyebrows, curly, like jet black hair. And but then that's the thing, like Jennifer Connelly like never aged into like, okay, now you're like suburban like mom or like, you know, rejected
Yeah,
girl.
She just kept getting hotter.
Yeah, I know. She's so hot. But anyway, that woman, don't know her name, but good one.
Go her. Is that it? God.
Yes, that's finally
I
it.
missed
Thank you.
someone. Anyways, yeah, so that's the cast. But yeah, I don't know what else we can say. Not much else, I guess.
So Richard Donner was the producer of this movie, which, if everyone remembers, is the guy who directed The Goonies.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Love him, Richard Donner, and he was supposed to direct us, but had to direct Lethal Weapon, I guess, instead. So he handed this off to Joel Schumacher. But this is basically Goonies with vampires, if you think about it, and Corey Feldman is in it. So it's like, hello.
Whoa, that's true.
I know.
It's true.
I know. So it definitely definitely like has that vibe, like kids getting into trouble, but then like saving the day, like essentially.
Monster Squad. Also
Yeah.
like Monster
Yep,
Squad.
exactly. So vampires instead of pirates, you know, for the Goonies, Monster Squad. Yeah, you had all the vampires, all the monsters. But overall, I'd say solid vampire movie.
Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not sleep. Yeah, great movie, great soundtrack, good comedy and scares. This movie's got it all.
And I feel like it wasn't like too scary, which was good. I mean, it really like built up to it because you really don't see any of like, you don't see the vampires kill anybody except kind of that one big scene.
This is a huge scene. It was very violent and gory.
but that was
I was
it, and I like
surprised.
appreciate that. And then then it's mostly just vampires dying, and that in itself is like pretty bad. But overall, like not because I'm thinking like I was very scared of vampire movies for a long time because something about like necks and biting and stuff really freaked me out, and also anything to do with killing via the neck, whether it's like broken neck or slash throat, really freaks me out. See,
You've never expressed that.
I know this is my new
Add
thing.
it to the list.
This is my new thing, and
What do you mean it's your new thing? You said it always freaked you out.
this is my new old thing because, and this goes back to seeing scenes from Interview with a Vampire where they were basically doing both of those things, and it's like scared the shit out of me, and I was convinced I could never see a vampire film after that. It was traumatizing. I know.
God.
Now
It's
I kinda-
all or nothing. It's all or nothing with you. It's just like
Well, no, it was, but now I want to see Interview with a Vampire because I feel like I could handle it.
pretty sexy.
It's sexy. Okay. Is it scary though?
Homoerotic. I mean, couples. I don't know. I don't remember it being scary so much as like a drama.
Maybe I'll pick that for my next one.
What? Too many vampires.
You guys are sick of the vamps?
Just like Santa Carla.
Let's vamp up.
But yeah, good times. I say we talk about it.
Okay.
To talk about it.
It's time for the sweetie synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties.
I got a quote. Don't you worry. Here it comes. Like a stake to the heart. We're fighters for truth, justice, and the American way. Also, death by stereo. Yeah.
Cute. Sam and Michael are brothers moving to the California West Coast city on a boardwalk town of Santa Clara, also known as the murder capital of the world.
Also known as Santa Cruz. That's where they filmed it.
Oh, okay. Whoa.
Which was the murder capital of the world for a long time.
What?
Did you read this?
God.
So
No.
in the 70s, there were 3 different serial killers that killed like 30 people in like 2 years or something. Yeah, it was crazy. And one is the guy from, what's the serial killer show that got canceled?
The serial
With
killer
Jonathan
show?
Groff.
It got canceled?
Yeah.
Sam. Mindhunter?
Yeah, Mindhunter. Edward Kemper. Remember, he goes and interviews him.
yeah.
He was one of these Santa Cruz killers, and so it really was the murder capital of the world for a good couple years there.
Oh.
Yep.
Huh. Who knew? So their mom has divorced their father. They used to live in Phoenix, Arizona?
Think
Or
so.
Yeah, Phoenix. So they go to live with the mom's dad, who's like this kooky old man who is a taxidermist and whatever antlers is. Is that taxidermy? I don't know.
So because he was mounting those or whatever. Yeah, I think it's bucket.
Yeah. But he's a
taxidermy.
kook. He's a real kook, and they're not thrilled to be living here, I guess. But bonus, there's a boardwalk, so they go out for night on the boardwalk. Guys, let me tell
Under
you,
the boardwalk.
the nightlife in Santa Clara is like unheard of. I've never seen anything quite like this. You can go to a sweaty trash can concert on a stage with a man in a blonde ponytail, shirtless, sweaty, singing and playing a saxophone. Like, what are the odds?
I gotta say, for me, this was the best part of the film by far. I could watch that scene 1,000 times. Essentially, it was Kenny G, if everyone can picture this, but has been to the gym and taken steroids and has tanned and greased up not only his body but his hair into a slick ponytail, and also is a pretty good singer. So imagine this.
Pretty good singer, not a great lip syncer.
I was into that jam. It was great.
He was off. He was just so off on all the words. I was like, does he know the words? Apparently not. But yeah, that's my favorite part by far. They parodied that on SNL, I think, at some point, and it's just like an iconic bit of imagery. Yeah. So that's the great things. So there's like maybe 1 million people at this weird trash can concert, and I say that
calling it a trash can concert because it's burning
there's
trash
a flaming
cans?
trash
Okay.
barrel on this, like a homeless man trash barrel.
When did that go from being cool to being associated with like homeless bums? Or it just never...
It was always a
it was
little
always,
bit
right?
in the middle. Yeah. It's just like industrial. I don't know. Anyway, so even though there's like 1,000 people there, Michael, the older brother, spots a beauty, across the sea of people. And he's like, pew, gonna go get that girl. So he's like going after this girl. Meanwhile, Sam, the younger brother, goes down the boardwalk, finds his home in a comic book store, which is, I was going to say owned, but I guess they just work there, by the Frog Brothers, who are vampire enthusiasts. So they give Sam a copy of a comic book called Vampires Are Everywhere. And they tell him it's like a manual, and he's like, yeah, okay, guys, okay, whatever. So he goes home. Meanwhile, Michael gets into a little bit of trouble with some toxic vampire friends that I like to call the Vampire Squad from Hell. I don't know. Are all vampires from hell?
Basically,
I don't know.
They're the band Poison, but they're vampires. I mean, they're basically like a hair band. They are like so 80s looking. It's like unbelievable. I mean, maybe not Kiefer Sutherland, but like his 3 other guys.
Right, the other ones.
Yeah.
He was just so, he was in a different band. But
yeah. He was in a punk band or something, but those other guys were definitely like Poison or White Snake or like one of those.
Yeah. So they ride their bikes. Are those dirt bikes or like actual motorcycles?
I think they had actual motorcycles. I think Michael had the dirt bike, which was why the little part where he's like, my bike can't beat you, man. We just need you to keep up. Like, and then he had like trouble like on the sand with it, which I guess if with his dirt bike, would that make sense? I don't think so.
I think that would be the opposite. So
Maybe-
maybe they had dirt bikes and he had
a
a motorcycle.
Oh, gotcha.
Maybe that's what it
I
was.
gotcha.
We know all about motorcycles. So he follows them to their lair, which is this like cool abandoned
hotel that like sunk into a fault line.
Yep. From after the big earthquake, and is now this like abandoned kind of like junk / Lost Boys cavern. So they, typical party animal, things. Offer him this like jug of wine, quote unquote. Well, actually, first they bring food out, and they're like, "Here, want some rice?" First of all, who orders Chinese food and just gets like plain white rice in the carton?
I know.
I hate that person.
I know.
Give me a break. Anyway, so that's what Michael eats, and then David, who's the scary Kiefer Sutherland vampire, is like, "Do you like your maggots, Michael? Do you like them? You're eating maggots. You're eating maggots." And he looks down, and it's maggots, and he's like, "Ah!" and then like spits them all out, and then they laugh at him, and then he looks again, and it's back to rice on the ground. So he's like, "What the fuck is going on?" So then David's eating the lo mein, and Michael thinks it's worms. He's like, "Sick," and then it's just kidding, it's noodles. So they like pull this kind of like glamour trick to, get ready for this. "Oh, you want some blood?" And he's like, "Haha, yeah, right, guys. I know the tricks now. I know it's not really blood." And he's like, "Glug, glug, glug, glug." And so he drinks that, which is actually blood, even though his vampire, doesn't know they're vampires yet, but his little girlfriend, Star, throwback to my name, Star Dumas, on the Jelly Belly fan club card.
This is what it's from, wasn't it?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. So he starts, I don't know what happens at this part. He like transcends into vampire psyche hell or something.
I think with like one
strange.
sip of the blood, it just like, I mean, because like,
But then he
why
was,
would
like,
he
falling.
keep drinking it if he could, if
He
it
was like,
tasted like blood?
Whoa.
Yeah, well, definitely. He was kind of like drugged with vampire
But what was
blood.
happening? Okay. All right. Well, whatever.
But then they do more like crazy, it's supposed to be like, crazy teenage hijinks. They like go to a railroad track and are like, they all, this part was nuts. So they like all like jump under it. Like they're, and it's like over like a big like ravine, there's like a big cavernous opening. It's all smoky, so you can't see what's below it. Assuming it's like a body of water, like a ravine, like I said. So they like jump down. It looks like they've jumped to their death. So poor Michael's like, and then they're like, "Come down, Michael." And they're all just hanging there. So you're like, okay, they're just like crazy boys, like whatever. And then the train comes, and the train is like shaking them. And so they can't hold on. And poor Michael's like, "Ah, ah, ah." And then they're like, "Let go, Michael." And they all like drop down in the ravine. And Michael's like, "Holy shit, all these guys just committed suicide. Like this is some fucked up shit." He's ready to like pull himself up, I'm pretty sure, right? But he loses his grip. Like he's not able to because he's been hanging too long. Then he falls down too.
Yeah. So then what is this part where he's like, "Whoa."
Right. Whoa.
For like an hour. Like, was he dying? What does he like? I don't know.
He must have fallen, but was able to float because they can fly. But then you don't really know because he just wakes up in his bed, right?
He wasn't like a full vampire yet. Yeah. So yeah, next morning he just wakes up. He like sleeps all day. Meanwhile, the mother has gotten a job at a video store on the boardwalk run by this kind of like nice, but I think creepy guy who's like, "You're so caring. You're exactly what I need in an employee at the video store." Like, I don't know. I got a weird vibe, whatever. So, so Sam, meanwhile, goes back to the comic book store, like talks again to those guys. They give him another vampire book, and he's like, "You guys are crazy. Like, I don't know why you think there's vampires here." oh, do you, Sam? Because that night, the mom has a date with her boss, which, like, okay, see, that's why it's creepy, because you're like, you can't just do that. I don't know. I think there's a rule against it. And so Sam stays home and Michael like watches him or whatever. Some weird things happen. The dog attacks Michael because Michael starts getting like the weird vampire fits or whatever, and like stalks upstairs to the bathroom where Sam's taking like a glorious bubble bath. And down Bubble Street. That's what I was singing in my head, which is the song I used to sing in the bathtub. So Michael's like outside, I don't know, getting ready to like kill Sam or something. And the dog like goes after him and like bites the shit out of his hand, and like it's really crazy. So Sam's like, "What's wrong? Like, what happened?" And then Sam calls the mom.
Well,
right?
then like they're, Sam's starting to put together like what's going on. So,
How?
he sees he doesn't have a reflection. Remember, he's like, why did the dog attack you? What's going on? You've had an attitude. You're sleeping too much. So he's like slowly like putting it together in his mind. And I feel like the thing with vampires is that, and luckily in most of these movies, you have people who like believe in vampires because it's so easy to like not believe. But if you even have like a clue, you're like, oh, okay, that person's definitely a vampire by like 3 like pretty minor things. But the no reflection thing's like pretty spooky. So basically his reflection is there, but it's like kind of going in and out. So he kind of starts freaking out and he's like, get away from me. And Sam locks himself in his room. Meanwhile, Michael does too, but then he starts like floating in his room and then like floats out of his room, but grabs the telephone. So then Sam calls his mom and is like, Mom, you got to come home. Like something's wrong with Michael. I can't tell you on the phone. And she's like flipping out. So she goes home, but then Michael's on the phone being like, Mom, don't listen to him. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So it's like such a nightmare. So finally he like is able to float to the window and he's like, Sam, let me in. And he's like, I'm your brother. Like, you have to help me. Like, you have to help me figure this out. So luckily, I mean, he does, but that's like a pretty sketchy thing. I mean, sweetie, if I was a vampire, would you help me? Or would you be like, hell no?
I mean, I want to say hell no. I mean, I guess it would depend if it was before or after I saw Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Because if I saw in real life that like David Arquette floating outside of the sliding door, like forget it,
Yeah.
I would just be like, no, you're not my sister anymore. Sweetie's dead. And no, I don't know. Yeah, it was nice though.
In this case, it's okay because he's not a vampire yet. As we've talked about previous vampire movies, a little bit fast and loose with the rules here on vampires. The new rule for this movie is like so he never gets bit. There's no like biting involved. He drank vampire blood, right? So that like makes him first step of the vampire. Now apparently to become a vampire you have to kill. Like you're just like a mini vampire. So you only have like a small qualities of the vampire. So I guess that includes like all the sleeping, like no like holy water, all the stuff we'll talk about later. But to be like initiated like fully into the club, it sounds like you really need to have killed somebody.
But thou shalt not kill.
Yeah.
So I guess Sam calls the Frog Brothers, right, as his expert because he knows people. So the Frog Brothers, have all this information. They got all the facts. So they say Michael's a half vampire, or whatever, because he didn't kill anyone, so he's fine. So. Or does does Star tell Michael that? Because he like sneaks away and has sex with her. Yeah,
Star does. So yeah, that's kind of happens next. So he's like, I got to figure this out. Knows where like the lair is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
goes there, and the vampires aren't there because it's at night, right? So they're out hunting people. Finds her, and he's like stressed out about being a vampire, but that does not get in the way of I need to get laid. By also half vampire chick, because he stopped worrying for a good hour to bone this girl. And I'm like, listen, bro, figure out your shit. Like, what are you doing? Unless she like like kind of like possessed him a little. I don't know. Did some sort of
Maybe.
like vampire like.
Glamour.
I mean, right, but it's not that he wasn't attracted to her. He was from the beginning. He was always like very, very.
Or
into
maybe
her.
he only was because she did her glamour spell.
Yeah, right. So she might have a glamour spell, but she
remember,
does.
he was supposed to be her first.
Right.
Kill.
So she's a half vampire, and then there's also this little kid running around with them, Lottie.
You get like one random kid.
I guess
like,
to
get
keep
kids or
her
you don't.
company. I guess it was to keep her company until she was able to like make her first kill.
She can't get a friend. She has to have a child.
I know. I don't know like what their recruiting process is for this whole thing. It's like pretty shady. I'm like, why do you have 3 guys in a hairband, 1 girl, and a little kid?
Yeah. Very strange.
Like what are your qualifications to get in this vampire
Well,
club?
I guess it's like
I'm
the
not
Peter
sure.
Pan motif, but
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. Yeah. So
Oh, she's Wendy.
well, but that's what's his face wanted the mom to be. I
Right.
think like at the end.
Right.
But I don't. Yeah. Anyway, skipping ahead. So, so the Frog Brothers decide that if they take out the head vampire.
Wendy. Wait, was her name Wendy? No.
Who?
Lucy was her name,
Yeah.
which is also in Bram Stoker. But Michael is Michael in Peter Pan.
Oh yeah. John.
John, but
Michael,
the guy's name was
John.
Sam. Okay. Sorry.
Not quite the same, but almost.
I'm getting too deep here.
So, the Frog Brothers, yeah, they got to find the head vampire. So Sam has like a weird theory that is either because he doesn't like his mom dating or actually thinks this is true, but wants to check out the video store guy. What's his name? Max something.
Max.
Because they go over to his house. The mom goes over to like drop off something or apologize for running out on the date or whatever. And his dog like flips the fuck out on her and tries to like kill her basically and like rams down a wooden fence. So
Yeah,
at the time
he's
Sam
Cujo.
sees it in his comic book that's like the Hounds of Hell, and they're like these guardians that guard the place while the vampire's sleeping so that nobody can harm them when they're at their most vulnerable. So it's like, we got to check him out. So the Frog Brothers come to dinner, and then they put up all these kind of like vampire tests to see if he's a vampire or not. So they give him what they say is Parmesan cheese, but it's like actually raw garlic. They spill holy water on him to see if he has like a reaction to that. They turn off the lights to see if he glows, which I've never heard of that one
that's
before.
a new one.
And then they do the mirror trick to see if he has a reflection. All of the things he passed. So they're like, oh, guess he's not a vampire. So they have to apologize. And it's like, bah, 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 bah. So still need to find the head vampire. Meanwhile, they decide the next day to hunt the vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they're like, well, it's got to be one of those other ones, the hairband guys. So Michael shows them where the lair is. They go in there with like stakes, and they're like, which one's the head vampire? Okay. Any dummy would be like, I wonder who the head vampire. Like, ask Michael. Michael should be like, duh, it's David. Or just like look at them, and be like, oh, must be this weird punk guy. Like, I don't know. I just feel like that was stupid to pick like the smallest one first.
Yeah.
They're like, we have to kill all of them, one at a time. So they kill one, and he flips out, which makes all the other vampires flip out, even though it's daytime. I don't know how that works. And David wakes up and is like, oh, gotcha. And then he is about to kill them or grab Sam, and then his hand reaches into the sunlight, and he's like, I'll get you. And then he goes back to his vampire hibernation. So they're like, shit, like they're coming to get us. We have to be ready. So now it's time for the, what would we call this scene in movies? The like Kevin McAllister preps the house scene or something.
Yeah, like the final showdown or something like that. So yeah, there's always like, okay, the bad guys are going to come get us. Like, let's arm ourselves. So Michael had snuck out the 2 like other half vampires. So Star and Lottie, the little kid.
Laddie,
the little kid, who's wearing like a Confederate jacket. Did you notice that? I'm
Is
like,
he from
what
the Confederacy?
deal with this? Is he that old? But he was like a missing kid. He was like on a milk curtain. just stolen like from the
Literally
pier.
on a milk carton.
Yeah, face on a milk carton. So they get like, all their supplies ready. So I love that like prep work for like killing vampires. So they steal all the holy water from a church. They like sneak in there during service and are like using like a what do you call it? Like a canteen thing, and like take it all out. They fill a bathtub with it. You have Corey Haim just like pound. They get like the biggest sack of garlic I have ever seen. It was like a giant potato sack, but like netting, but filled with garlic. I've never seen garlic sold like that. Must be somewhere. And he's pounding it with a mallet to separate the shallots, and they throw that in the holy water, and they fill up all their squirt guns with it. Brilliant. They have all the stakes and shit like that. They lock up all the house, but knowing, they can basically like come in anytime. So they're ready. So, as soon as like so they only have a couple hours because as soon as the sun goes down, they know those guys are going to wake up, which they do. And they go like flying out of their like crazy cave and going to hunt them. Their mom is on a date with the Max guy, and grandpa went out on a date or went to go like see some old lady friend of his, right? So it's like just the kids at home. So they are, but the dog, best dog ever. First of all, that dog, saved the day. Nanook saved the day like 100 times. I want to say best dog in this movie. However, had a, doesthedogdie.com moment right now because they had tied him up because like the dog knows about these half vampires and is like very like protective of Sam, so starts barking, and so they have to put him outside. So unfortunately outside means like basically like in the driveway, like tied to like the fence. I'm like, what are you doing? So he's like barking as soon as he hears the vampires start to approach. So they're kind of far away, but he's like alerting them. So Sam's like, the dog, no, and runs to go get him. Of course, his leash is like all tangled up. So he's like trying to get him loose, and then he can't. So then Michael comes running, and it's like some super fucking close call.
They fall. It's like
they fall. Yeah, no, Michael, they're coming like crazy. So they get in the house. So you're like, phew, thank God. And then where do the fucking vampires come in?
through the walls.
Through the chimney and the walls.
Well, what happened to the whole like in getting invited in? Like no one invited them in. They just flew through the chimney.
Yeah.
No
Plot
fair.
hole.
So yeah, assault, vampire assault. So couple, chaos ensues. The vampires die in like various awesome ways, which we'll talk about. And then there's a like kind of a showdown between David and Michael, and then they're like pushing each other against. The grandfather has all those deer antlers everywhere, which is like perfect. So they're getting like pushed near those, and then Michael manages to overtake him and like pushes David on like a gazelle antlers or something, or like antelope antlers or something like curly.
He went to Africa for that shit.
Yeah, it's like Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt style. So David's dead. So Michael though is still a vampire, and at this point he's turned into the like scary facial expression of a vampire. So it's like no hiding it now. And he's still like that. So they're like, okay, I guess David wasn't the head vampire.
Right. So the other rule we forgot to explain, also kind of like loosey-goosey rule here. You kill the head vampire. Anyone who was a vampire is no longer a vampire. But does that only apply to the half vampires, or would it have applied to the other guys as well?
I think only the half vampires. Once you're a vampire, your soul is gone.
Okay. Yeah. So would they have like... okay, so they would have had to kill all of those guys anyway. Okay, it was only the half vampires that go back.
Well,
to
maybe
being...
the regular vampires would have died or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
who knows? So, they're like, who is this other head vampire? Wouldn't you know it? Max and the mom come strolling in, and Max like walks over to like David and is studying him. And then the mom's freaking out, obviously. There's literally vampire blood just, like, raining from the ceiling. And Max is like, I'm sorry. Like, this is all my fault. And turns out, guys, he's the fucking head vampire. And Sam's like I knew it. And he was like, but you passed the test. And he was like, well, I was invited in so I could, like, do whatever I wanted or whatever. You didn't have any power over me, so you could do nothing, like, hurt him in the house. So like, damn it! They're like, didn't forget about that like side.
Oh, that's why it
loosey-goosey
didn't work. Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay.
Yeah. So then he's like spouting off all this like crazy shit about how he wants like Lucy to join them and like be the mother of the like vampire clan, the Lost Boys, like a Wendy.
Well, what vampire clan? They're all dead.
I know. So he'd have to start from scratch, I guess.
Scratch, yeah.
Sam and Michael. Well, Sam, Michael. That girl's alive.
Right.
So. And then, right when all hope seems lost, La Cucaracha comes, and the grandpa and his awesome truck just like mows down the wall and impales Max on his truck, which also has horns on it. When he's like, "Damn vampires!" Like, one thing I hate about Santa Clara, too many damn vampires. So he's known this whole time and just like has been, keeping. He may be kooky, but he keeps an eye out. Let's say that. Yep. So that's it. And then Michael turns back to normal. The girl turns back to normal. Laddie turns back to normal, and happily ever after.
So, but Laddie had turned into a vampire, so he had made a kill, and they just didn't know it.
No, because Michael didn't make a kill.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's just
Why
like
did he
a part.
then?
You start just turning more and more if you can't control
okay.
your anger or something. I don't know. Is that a
okay.
Jedi thing? I don't know. But
I don't know.
Yeah, interesting though. But yeah, that's it. La cucaracha, la cucaracha.
Da cucaracha.
Great ending.
Da, 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 da.
Did you see it coming, sweetie?
Well, no, because I'm trying to think, and I can't off the top of my head, other examples of when the red herring turns into the herring. So, like the old, I think it's from, so a red herring is like, it's a term often used in any like mystery stuff, right? We are big fans of mystery shows and books. So a red herring meaning like you think it's one person and it's like you're convinced it is, and that like throws you off the scent of who the real person is, right? So apparently that is like a reference to fox hunts, I'm pretty sure, where you could throw the scent, the hounds off the scent of the fox by like throwing in a red herring.
I do want to do that. Isn't the idea to get the fox?
I don't know.
Why are you making it harder for yourself? It doesn't make sense.
I know. But I'm pretty sure that's where it's from. And so like in like Sherlock Holmes or like Agatha Christie, obviously like used a lot. Clue, yeah. But
communism was a red herring.
Right, exactly. So, it makes you, almost like sleight of hand in like magicians, you're like looking one way and something happens. So that's very interesting because like you are led to believe that it's this guy, and then that's ruled out because, he doesn't have any of the vampire qualities, doesn't get hurt by holy water, whatever. So in your mind, you cancel him out as a person. Mm-hmm. And then you realize that it is really him. So like, I don't know if that's like a phrase, but I haven't really seen that done before. But here's what happened to me though, because I was convinced that Edward Herman being the main vampire was a red herring. I thought either it could have been the girl Star was actually like the main vampire, or the grandpa. No. So here's why I made the leap to the grandpa, because first he killed like the head vampire, but then he goes into the refrigerator, and he said at the beginning he has this shelf that like the grandfather shelf where it has like Cokes, a root beer, and his Oreos, and he drinks one, and then in my mind for a hot second I was like, that's blood. Like he's the real vampire.
Oh my god, it wasn't red, it was just like because there's vampire blood everywhere, so it's like
I thought it was like fourth act shit. I was like, this is happening. So did I fall for it? Yeah.
Would have been great, I think, if a greater ending, maybe if the girl was the head of vampire, because woman power.
Right.
And
I know. And
wouldn't
why
see
would she
that
have been?
coming. Yeah.
And she would have been the only, like, what? That's why she was the only woman, maybe? 'Cause it's like, why was there only one woman?
Would have been a great twist. We should do it.
I know.
But yeah, and then the grandfather saving the day, obviously I love that.
Yeah.
It was just really, overall, really good.
Oh, like really well written, like very, very cool and great. Where it took place, that whole idea of those boardwalks in California are so cool. Like the Santa Monica Pier used so well in The Net, and then you have this one being Santa Cruz. Like we don't really have anything out like in the East Coast, you might have like an Atlantic City kind of a thing, but we don't really have that boardwalk style here. So seeing that's so cool and seeing all those like
creepy.
Oh yeah, it is creepy. But seeing all those like carnival rides and stuff and all that like really brought me back. That's such a summer thing. And it's all like right on the beach and all those cliffs and everything you have with California too. Really, really cool. And like I will see any movie with the Coreys. I think they are great. I mean, I'm kind of pro Corey Feldman because The Goonies is my favorite movie, but like Corey Haim is funny, man.
I know.
Like that guy is hilarious and he's so
talent.
cute, and I know. I love him. He's so funny. I don't know about the other guy though. The other frog brother.
other
I
frog
think
brother.
He like got lost. To, like,
I know.
Hollywood. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, I will say, so one of my favorite scenes is when the vampire approaches the Frog Brothers in the bathroom, and then he gets pushed into the tub by Nanook, and then the Frog Brothers are like screaming and just like holding on to each other and just like and like it's so good because it's just like I just love movies where like guys just lose it and are like, because it's like, yeah, you would fucking lose your shit if a vampire was like disintegrating in a bathtub of holy water and garlic. But like if garlic doesn't do anything, then why did they have to put the garlic in the holy water? Why not just leave the garlic out? What's wrong with just holy water?
They thought it did. So the vampire was like, ha, it doesn't do anything. So I think that was just like one of the things they brought up.
Spreading that rumor around?
Exactly. Like one of the things they brought up that was definitely the old wives' tale like portion of it, because it never made sense to me. Holy water makes sense, right? Because you're talking about like the undead and all that stuff.
So I looked it up.
But
and
why is garlic? Yeah. Why is
so I looked
garlic
it up, and because myths and legends often start in truth, in fact, there is a disease called something where you have a sensitivity to light, and it may cause like facial deformities and stuff like that. So that was like what people think they probably thought were vampires, and this whole lore started because of that. One of the foods that you can't eat if you have that disease are like foods that are high in sulfur, like garlic. So, that's where it comes from, I think. Pretty cool, huh?
Okay. Cool.
Pretty cool. But I love that scene. I mean, the whole ending scene with that, the vampire that gets murdered by the stereo, great. Super gory, but like so awesome. And like the vampire that disintegrates in the bathtub, like all his blood and vampire guts gets like sucked down the drain, and then the house is just raining vampire blood out of like every pipe. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Very, very like The Shining.
Yeah. Both great. I also thought it was strange how there were two huskies in this town. Like have you ever, like, I feel like huskies or whatever dogs, those, I don't know, Malamutes.
It was a Malamute, yeah.
I feel like they're rare to have like as pets, maybe? Have you ever seen one?
So we just moved to this new neighborhood, and these two, okay, they must be a mix because they're the biggest huskies or Malamutes or whatever I have ever seen. They look like polar bears. I'm not even kidding you. So I have seen one.
Wow.
But they are pretty rare. But I wonder if on the West Coast maybe they aren't as rare, because if you're talking about like Alaska and over there, I don't know, maybe it's like a little bit more prevalent.
They're beautiful
in
dogs.
California.
But, yeah,
They're beautiful.
one of them is the best, Nanook. The other one is bad because it's the vampire's familiar. What's that one's name?
Yeah.
Torch? No.
Torch. I think that's right. Yeah.
Torch? No, it was like something with a T. It was Torch? That's not a
Torch.
It's Torch?
You can name your dog
Thorn.
Thorn or Thor?
Thorn.
Oh, okay.
Or Thor would be better than Torch.
Okay. I'm like, it's definitely Torch. You got it. You can talk me into anything. I'm like, yeah.
I didn't even try
Definitely
talking
Torch.
you into it. I was like,
I know.
it's not Torch. And you were like, it's Torch.
Yes, it is. Okay. Not important. I agree that scene was awesome. And I love the part. So one is like in the bathroom with the Frog Brothers, dies a horrible death in like the holy water bathtub. I love that the second guy is he like gets Sam and like brings him up, and he has the squirt gun full of holy water. So then he drops him, but then he like comes back, and Sam is able to. They made these. They have like a bow and arrow with the stakes, and shoots him through the heart. But then he misses, and he's like, "You missed, sucker!" And then he gets him again and like impales him like onto the stereo, and then it's like a total like MTV death by MTV, like, because in the beginning they move to this house, and Sam's devastated because they don't have TV, right? And his reasoning is like, but how am I gonna watch MTV? You know, MTV being like relatively new in the 80s, and that was everyone's life. And this is a very like MTV movie, I would say, with like the soundtrack and like the sort of like rock and roll aspect to it. So that just like was so fitting. And then that's when he says like, "Whoa, man, cool." And he like gets electrocuted, but then like his like body parts fly off, I want to say. And so then that's when Sam's like, "Death by stereo." Yeah. It's so classic. I love that. And then the way Kiefer dies is pretty good too. Like we said, with the impaling on like the Impala horns or whatever. And then also so like I said, you don't really see them kill anybody until kind of the middle of the movie. They do a thing where basically, like in the beginning, they try to get some girl like on a carousel, and her boyfriend like stops them. And then the security guard is like, "Get out of here. I told you, kids." Because like this vampire group of lost boys are basically just like ruffians who are like causing trouble. So people, like all the adults, just like kick them out of places. So they go after the security guard, and like as he's running to his car, he's getting to his car, and like them after his shift, and they just like swoop down on him, but you don't see anything. So you don't like know anyone looks like, you don't know what is going on. And so this happens a couple times. And then it's not until you like they're doing like an initiation for Michael that there's like a whole bloodbath when they're killing what according to the credits are Nazi surfers. So there's like so
they're just guys in like
a bonfire with like guys who look kind of like Nazi skinheads. They have like
they
some of them
like,
have mohawks, but
I couldn't tell what kind of crowd. They all look different.
But they're surfers because they are like after a surf, and I think there's surfboards there, and they're like partying, after, hanging
Quite
10.
a wild party. I always thought parties were
it's
like
a wild
that
party,
when
though.
I was little. I was like, okay, I guess when I go to a party in high school, it's just going to be like a wild bonfire in hell.
So they like swoop in on them, and it's like I said, kind of like some bad like throat cutting and stuff. But the one that was really crazy to me was he like bit some guy on the head. And it like spurts
crazy.
This blood, and I mean it makes sense because your head has a ton of blood in it. So okay, that makes sense.
You have to get through
but
the
like,
skull.
is that where vampires would normally bite? I mean, the guy was bald, so it was like really effective. But that was just like completely shocking to me. I was just like,
Well,
"What's
they were just like so savage and just like literally ripping these people apart.
Yeah.
And they were just like covered in blood, and it was like, whoa.
Which is so in the beginning, they're constantly showing like missing people posters. So they're killing all these people, feasting off their blood as vampires would. Where do they put the bodies?
They showed them burning them in the.
Yeah, they burn those ones, but they couldn't be burning everybody's. Like, do they?
They can fly. They can
take
do whatever
them
they
with them?
want. They can
Yeah,
bring it
okay.
I mean, they pretty much like desiccate the body, right? And so it's like not.
Yeah.
I don't know. They just tear it apart. Seems not to be a ton left. So,
Right.
they're vicious creatures.
Here's a crazy question. Ready? Because it like made me think. Okay, there's missing children and missing people all the time. What if missing people are really victims of vampires and we just don't know it? Sweetie, what do you think?
Well, I don't know, sweetie. You have a thing about vampires where if Sweetie watches a vampire movie or reads a vampire literature, she'll hallucinate that vampires are outside her window. Better tell Jimmy to be on the lookout tonight.
It happened one time, okay? This was like the beginning of my introduction to horror. My first ever Stephen King was Salem's Lot, which is a great book if you've never read. It was not his first book, because I think Carrie was, but I think it's like his second book. It's so good. And there's this beginning scene where this like little kid like comes to the window and is like, let me in. Like, it is so scary. So yeah, I had like a horrible dream about it. It was crazy.
But no, I don't think. I mean, that would be interesting.
You don't think so?
But I mean,
That
to
would be
me, it
interesting.
sounds like the reverse of how somebody thought of this movie, which was that like all these murders are happening in California. What if it was vampires?
Right.
So it's like
Right.
that's how they came up with it. So it could be true. I don't know. That's fucked up though. But
I know.
did you notice though there was maybe what is now our third watch clock?
Oh, I'm literally, sweetie, I'm looking at this note, hanging swatch, ! Wanted to figure out how to bring it up. I was going to say it's our like Where's Waldo of 80s movies
And I
now.
will
Find the
say-
hanging
I know.
swatch.
And I will say, when we watched the other ones that had this in it, in my head, I was like, "Oh, I know Lost Boy." And like I knew the Lost Boys had one in it because that was like one of the screenshots I took was like, what an amazing, because he has like quite a funny decorated room. Sam, he has like
Yeah.
a poster of like half naked Rob Lowe, like looking steamy as fuck.
Oh my God.
And you're like, what is this doing in your room? I mean, I think he could be gay because he was
Yeah.
a really snappy dresser. He had an earring. I don't know that. I mean, that doesn't mean anything. And he was just like really like flamboyantly funny and like cool. Like not in a, you know what I mean? Like he was just like out there. Like he would just say funny things. Like he could totally be gay.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, and it's like kind of funny shirts and stuff. Yeah, no, I agree. I guess that Rob Lowe photo was from St. Elmo's Fire.
Another Joel Schumacher movie.
which Joel Schumacher directed, so he put that there as like a kind of like a funny thing. Homage to good old Rob Lowe. Okay, so if you the Corey's thing. So Corey Haim, yes, has since died, drug overdose. He had some incredible problems, you know, as someone who was a big not child, but like a teenage star, let's say, and then kind of like never got out of that. But then it came out there was, you know, he had been like raped on like a film set, right? It wasn't this movie, was it?
I don't know. I thought you
Or
told
was
me
it-
it was because you were like,
I think it might. I think it's Lucas, and he thinks it's Charlie Sheen or something like that. But or he said it was Charlie Sheen or Corey Feldman did or anything. But I was trying to remember when I was watching this. I was like, wait, because then I was thinking, was it Kiefer Sutherland? No.
there's some article
Yeah.
I was just reading before this. They had Corey Feldman named the person, I thought, but it was no one that I knew. It was like some Hollywood producer.
Yeah, I think Corey Feldman said it was. I thought he said Charlie Sheen, but it came out that they had gone to like those crazy like sex parties or something, and that was like initially where they were like groomed. Really, really awful. So poor Corey Haim and Corey Feldman like really just were like such big stars, but clearly were quite abused, and that led them to like having these horrible lives. And in this movie in particular, Corey Feldman was like a coke addict. I mean, he was not that old,
During
and
this
he
movie?
like got. Yeah, and he got like fired on his first day because he showed up to set and like couldn't stay awake. And then he got fired, but then he was able to get rehired the next day because he came back and talked to the director and was like, listen, like I'm going to clean up my act. Like, so I guess he like got over it and was able to get over the coke stuff, but he was already like pretty fucked up during this period. So, I mean, I don't know how old they are here. Probably like 15?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Still young.
Yeah. I know. But yeah, that was like just such a bummer, but that was like such a ride for them because they did. I mean, I know they've done other, but the only one I'm familiar with is the License to Drive, which was the big one from my childhood that I like remembered with them. But I know they did a couple others, and this one being
Yeah.
the big one.
Well, yeah, that is the flick. Do you have any other items to talk about?
Oh, so I was just going to go over the Vampire Legend stuff. What did they hit and what did they make up? So, you know, the big ones, Garlic, we've already talked about. Sleeps All Day.
Sleeps all
Hit
day.
that one.
But don't like, I guess because they're the half vampires. I was like, but Michael could like get up sometimes and walk around. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes. No Sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
So that burns the David character. And then, because the half vampires, it's just like irritating to you, but you can function, it seems like. Drinking of the blood. Whose blood was that? And where did they get all of it?
What? I thought
In the big jar.
it was David's blood. I thought that was the whole
Where'd
thing.
he get it?
He got it out of himself. It's his blood.
How?
You don't know. You stick a needle in there. Get it out. What do you think?
No reflection. Mm-hmm. The invited one, which is always the funniest one to me. I think that is the funniest rule. That, like, vampires can only come in if they're invited.
So
I just think that's funny. And the spin that they take on this one is Sweetie said that, like, the reason Max and all that stuff, the garlic and the holy water and etc., reflection didn't work on him was because he was invited in. So it means, like, makes all those negative. I don't know. I've never heard that, like, way about it. The holy water, they hit that one. And then the new thing for this one was the drinking of the blood to make this half vampire, and then your first kill is the other one. When normally to make vampires, you just bite them on the neck and they become a vampire. But it's like they are, and those all become like zombie vampires. But here they were just like massacred and didn't become new vampires.
Right. Because they were just so wasteful. Maybe like the 80s yuppie culture was. Just kidding. I just feel like I like any like 80s movie or like the yuppies. But yeah, I think that was it. There were a couple that they thought were real, but ended up like not being. So like, yeah, like the garlic, the glowing thing.
The glowing. The dog one I've never heard.
Well, it's,
like
it
a
wasn't
protector or whatever.
The protector thing makes sense. I mean, like someone's got to watch the coffins. Otherwise, they're just sitting ducks, you know? And...
But then who was the protector of the guys in, like, the underground lair, though?
I don't know, Laddie?
They didn't really have one.
Laddie boy? Well, they were, like, hanging from the rafters, like, actual bats.
That was another thing that was kind of funny. Like, that they didn't have coffins.
Sketchy vampire nasty feet. Ugh.
Yeah. Yep. You only saw that with David, but, like, yeah, and they say that they were, like, hanging from the cave because they were basically bats because the whole... cave was like a coffin. I mean, that was like
vampires don't always fly either. Maybe that's one.
No.
But I mean, I gotta say, you're pretty much gonna win if you're a vampire who can fly. Like, I just don't see a way around how you can like beat that. You know,
right?
It just seems like a bad. You can't get out of that one, but they did.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, but yeah, vampires, scary stuff, man. Scary stuff.
Yeah, scary stuff. I mean, very good vampire. One of my favorites, I don't know, might be up there now. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I gotta go with Monster Squad as my which
is only like
fave,
a handful of vampires in it.
I don't know.
It's not even like full vampire.
I know, but I love that vampire.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
great.
Really scary. And but like he flew, but only as a bat though.
Right, he wasn't like floating, like whatever. And they don't really show them. Because of like budgetary things, I'm assuming. There's like one special effect at the end where the vampire like picks him up, and then they show like two little figures like wee like flying on the rafters.
Right.
But other than that, they get around like showing you what they look like when they're flying.
And that the bat thing is the other thing. So I feel like this movie makes fun of that because there's a thing where they like are. Well, then what was the point of that scene where like remember like they show the dog kind of freaking out, and then Max comes out and there's like a bat kite, and then the motorcycles, so all their motorcycles are like waiting there. I don't know, that was like kind of weird. Yeah, I guess to like put you off the scent. But yeah, what's your favorite vampire movie?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, probably.
Right. I mean, that one is classic. Obviously that one so good. I mean, Once Bitten was really good.
Different
I know there's others, but
Dracula with Keanu Reeves, Gary Oldman.
Oh, I've never seen that.
That one is
Interview with a Vampire.
Vampires. There's a movie called Vampires.
Wait, did we already talk about this, or
what?
Did I talk about this with Jimmy? The children's book called Bunnicula.
Yeah,
remember this?
We talked about that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. He sucks, except he's a vegetarian, so he sucks the juice out of vegetables instead of blood.
Yes.
Very nice.
Good children's book. Well, children's like chapter book, I think.
Yep.
But like young. This bunny that they have is like a Dracula bunny, and he sucks the juice out of I don't remember like the plot, but I just remember the cover and like the desiccated like
And there
carrot.
were like 2 of them. Remember the second one was like Banicula, the celery stalks at night. Clever.
So good. But yeah, right. And I feel like I never get tired of vampire films because they can do so many different like spins on it in different ways. And
Yeah, they're my favorite. They're my
whatever,
favorite
so-
thing, except for Twilight.
Yeah.
Twilight's stupid.
Right. That one is, well, I read a little bit of the books, but I never really gave it a shot because I thought the writing was horrible, but I haven't really seen any of the films. But I'm not sure if I will, but yeah, I find they're definitely my favorite monster by far. And I will say, if you have not read, classics are tough, and sometimes you read them and you're like, oh, this book sucks. But I will say, I read Bram Stoker's Dracula last Halloween, and it was really good and really scary and really, engrossing. So if you're looking for a good classic that is like will keep you interested,
That's why you go to see the Gary Oldman one.
Dracula, baby. Yeah,
It's that.
Yeah, it's
that
good.
Story.
I know. I love that one.
Good times. All
Good times.
Anything else before we go?
No, that's it. But promise, guys, no more vampire movies for a couple months.
Yeah, I guess we'll be on a vampire hiatus for now.
Vampire hiatus.
But
And we'll try to be together next time, and we'll get,
hopefully it's not a storm. I looked at the weather. There's like a thunderbolt, lightning bolt for like the next 5 days. Seems bleak.
Ugh. Bullshit. Scattered teas.
June, man. June. So, do you want to talk about The Lost Boys? Come find us on Twitter at The Sweetie Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Thank you, as always, for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Kiefer Sutherland is a rape artist.